We are ready to launch. So Mayor Callaway, thank you so much for joining us with a conversation with you today. So I think you have a few prepared remarks, and then I think you're just hoping to have a dialogue with the folks around the screen.
Absolutely. So thank you all. It was interesting when I walked out into the garage yesterday and saw, I think it's now 6, kitchen garbage bags full of empty, pop cans and stuff. I realized, we've gone from a pandemic into a candemic, and, I'll be glad when, again, things return to a little bit more normal. We can, begin to move forward and clean some things up and take care of some things that have been occurring, over the last number of weeks and weeks. I know that most of you are familiar with many of the things that the city has done in response, and a lot of those things were early on. So I won't rehash all of those, but I will say, our city's philosophy, was really to make sure that we were a first responder, to this situation. We did not want to be a last responder to making sure that businesses and community members had help. We wanted to make sure that we were not a non-responder to the needs of our community. And again, to that end, we're very grateful to the Chamber for their partnership. We're grateful that by doing some things early, it meant that we were able to build on those when additional opportunities came into place. A good example of that is on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're now in the city of Hillsboro giving out over 600 or about 600 food boxes. And so because we already had St. Matthew, the food program set up, then when Pacific Produce received, I believe it was a $25 million federal grant, for food, that, that infrastructure was already in place for us then to begin to get food out to people. And so, again, I think, it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, no questions are asked, and anybody can pick up the food. It may be for you, it may be for neighbors, so, again, it's a great opportunity to take care of each other. It's also a great opportunity to volunteer if you have some time, for that as well. One of the things that I'm also very, grateful for is the way that our community has responded. And, both of these individuals were on my notes prior to knowing that they would be part of today's conversation. But Dirk Knudsen with Hillsboro Strong, has been very, very important in making sure that, the needs of our community are communicated, as well as, just for that positive message of Hillsboro Strong, which you see is over my shoulder. And Dirk, I haven't forgotten that I still owe you, the money for that. If you would like to know about how to get a sign, you can go to hillsborostrong.org, I believe it is, and there's information there. .com. Okay, hillsborostrong.com. And the other person is Cindy Casemzo with Age Celebration, who's just done, again, great, very creative things where, she takes, she sees a need in a community and finds a business that can help meet that need, and then, helps people know how to, make contributions. And so they can, support the local business, and then that local business will send either educational kits to some of our elementary schools, thank you bags to Tuwality. The one that is really important right now, we have 1,500 high school seniors. And if you go to community4, that's FOR, community4grads.com, what we're doing is, and this is in partnership with Les at LiftTex, is, for $5, every senior in our school district will receive a little set of 3 stickers, that all, relate to, their Corona graduation, their Corona commencement, if you will,
Corona commencement.
Pardon me? And so anyway, so that's a real easy way. $5 is all it takes to support one grad. And so if some of you have those means to do that, that would be great. And then if you don't follow Kipperlin on Instagram, you are missing out on some amazing things. She also, through social media, just brings some great things, and so when you see, just grassroots things like that, you realize that government doesn't have to do all of it, and we can't do all of it. And it's easier for us to do what we do well, because there are so many people, individuals and businesses, that are just doing great work. Representative Solomon is a part of this today, and she has newsletters that go out on a real regular basis that provide great information. And so, while the mayor kind of has a visible platform, there are so many others who are doing such great work, all throughout our community. So anyway, I think with that, I'll just kind of open it up to some questions. And there may be some things that if they don't come up, I'll make sure that I cover those, in the process. And I guess one more thing then, Deanna, before I open it up to questions, our budget committee finalized our city budget for next fiscal year. And I see Councilor Martin is on the phone, is on our meeting this morning, and he, along with the rest of the council and our lay members of the budget committee, approved a very strong, healthy budget moving forward. We will be adding a couple of police officers whose task will be patrol. And then we also have, I believe it was 5 additional staff for our parks, which because we're opening up our Hidden Creek Community Center this fall. And so those were budgeted and planned for positions. And so we're able to move forward with those hires, again, because our city has prioritized, being fiscally responsible for years and years and years, going back to Tim Irwart, Eldon Mills, just pretty much forever. So, I think the reason that the chamber is around for its 125th year and will be around for numbers 126 and beyond is the same reason that Hillsboro can be here since 1876. And that's because, good, wise decisions. So thank you to all of those who have been a part of that budget process as well. So with that, Deanna, I'll throw it back to you and answer any questions that there might be.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. That's a great start to what I know will be a great conversation. So I'm going to open it up. If you have a question, just unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, well, no questions. See ya.
Oh. Can we ask where the food's being distributed, Mayor? You said Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Are we still doing that?
Yes. Oh, thank you. So, Dirk, that goes until the end of June.
And where do they get a box at?
So if they go down to St. Vincent de Paul, the food distribution across the street, from St. Matthew. And
okay.
Or as you would know, it's right next to the old Sizzler there on the corner of, I guess that would be 3rd and Oak.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And Dirk, if you want to say anything more about Hillsboro Strong, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, sure. So thanks to the guys at Speak, and thanks to Kipperlin for referring me to Jason at Speak Agency. For those of you that don't know them, they're in above Manias, and just an amazing social media company that works mostly with corporations. So they do B2B business consulting, but we have a new website, hillsborostrong.com, and he and I have been working on it, but we've got a simple map listing all the businesses that have a sign so far. The signs for any business are free. I sponsored the signs and the t-shirts to get the campaign going. And so I have, I think any business can pick up a sign for free at Ross and Robert Quivey's, the sign company there, right across from Decadent Creations on 3rd. And so those are free for businesses. For community members, they're $20, and then we're offsetting the costs and using the balance of those revenues for future things that we're working on with people like Cindy and Kipperlin, and coming up with ideas of how to get people into the store. So I want to list any business. It's not just downtown. I am getting some calls from around. It's basically anybody that wants in, that needs help generating interest. And so at this point, we have stickers, signs, and t-shirts available for promo. And then we're just going to start doing some promotion as we can fairly amongst that business group and trying to support downtown and the other areas of Hillsboro. So that's kind of where we're at with that, Mayor. But the website came along nicely, and I really want to thank them.
And so Kipperlin's Instagram handle is, let's see, where'd that go? But Hillsboro_junkie, I think it is. And in the chat room also, Janine dropped in the grad sticker gifts. So thank you for that. So thank you for, I guess, utilizing the chat box, the chat feature very well.
All right, next question.
Steve, I have a question. Is there an update on parks reopening beyond? I know that there was talk of opening up like the skate park and that kind of stuff, but what about full opening, play structures, that kind of stuff? Is there a timeline on that stuff?
So as you acknowledged, Brad, some of the parks began to open up. The dog park opened up, tennis courts opened up and some things like that. And so, we are in the process of opening some things. Let me, I apologize for doing this in front of all of you. I'm just, there's not going to be any ad or commercial breaks. So what I'll do, Brad, is I'll look through the reentry planning guide and make sure I, kind of get an answer to you. I know that we are looking at, opening up some of our city business buildings, around that June 1st time. And it's important to note that all of our city services have continued seamlessly throughout this whole pandemic period of closure. And so, some of our employees are working from home. Some are still working at, at their locations. All of our, streets, our transportation department, for instance, is still working and our streets are still being cleaned. Everything is still being maintained. We've been using some of our employees for the food to go program or food to you program. So, we're using, parks folks or library folks to, deliver food baskets to the door for those for whom it's difficult to get out, or if they're not feeling safe, to leave their homes for medical reasons or anything else. So, those are ways that we're also using our staff. But we will be having kind of soft openings around the 1st. And I will get back to you, specifically on when parks are going to open in their totality. One other thing, so we always close down the pool each year for some big maintenance. And so this year we moved that maintenance time up to the closure period. So while Shark has been closed from the public due to the stay-at-home order, we just moved the maintenance of that up. So we're trying to be very conscientious and smart to take advantage of some of the closures to do things that we wouldn't have done, that we would normally do. But this means that the public won't see any disruption in availability or service once we open back up again.
Excellent.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
Sorry. Who would like to go first?
Go ahead.
I have a couple of questions for you, Mayor. First off, I wanted to thank you and City Council and folks at the city for truly taking the leadership role in this, unprecedented time. I mean, it's been interesting to kind of see how people have taken individual roles, and you touched on it. It truly does modify and really enhance what people in the community do. And I think lots of people have taken a hold of that and demonstrated great leadership. And you and City Council and the other folks in the Hillsboro have really demonstrated that. So thank you for that. I think going forward, one of the things, it's really a two-part question for me. One is, what if any, modeling is the city doing for budgetary problems or issues and shortfalls potentially for next year? Maybe not so much this year, but what do they look like for next year, and what might that be like? We saw, I think we all saw the governor's report, the report from the state last week, and the shortfalls and stuff. And what do you think some of those things mean or might mean for the city? And then the other question is really a two-parter, not really related to that, but I get the sense that people are becoming a little bit quarantine weary, if you will. And, we have lots of folks that are doing the things that we need to do. And it seems to be the controversy of the day, whether I should wear a mask or not wear a mask, or I will wear a mask or I won't wear a mask, etc. I'm not trying to put you on the spot with that, but I think that trying to get everyone to continue to try to follow good practices requires some leadership. And so I will put you on the spot a little bit there to give us your thoughts on how do we continue the momentum of being good stewards to one another, to try to manage still any potential outbreaks.
So I will go with the budget question first. So we are spending down a bit, on our reserves this year. So the funding that we used for our our small business grants and some of these other COVID related costs, came from general fund and also some reserves. So we're spending down our reserves a little bit. We always, our goal is 20% reserves from one year to the next. We've been slightly above that. And I will also, offer Anthony Martin the opportunity to join in with me as, as a member of our budget committee in our, in city council. So we, when we spent down the reserves, it was conscientiously and thoughtfully. Now, as you know, Keith, we are primarily property tax, which is a pretty stable source. The state is income tax. That's their main source. And so that's a much more volatile tax or source of revenue. So we are, so to compare, our budgets, if you try to do it apples to apples, it really doesn't fit simply because of the resource or the revenue stream that supports it. So, we are, looking ahead to next year. There's some things that we are, going to be a little cautious with, but we aren't making wholesale cuts, or things such as that. We're going into it eyes wide open. And as you read, Keith, of other cities throughout the United States, Chula Vista, California is laying off, roughly 25% of their employees. We see stories out of, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Dayton, Ohio, and some other cities around the United States where it is just gut-wrenching when you see the cuts to services that are being made. That's not, that's not the boat that we're in. And so going forward, we know that there'll, maybe the property taxes won't all be paid on time. It may be that some, fall behind. We've seen that before, but we still anticipate, as has been in the past, that those will continue to be, paid and caught up. Other than that, our permits, permitting is down, about 35 to 40%, on average from last April. But we also know that, those can pick up, and you almost need to see a trend line to see the growth, because if last April was a really high year, well then that 40% might sound worse than it really is when you take it in its totality and the average from year to year. So all of that to say, we're still in good shape going forward. Suzanne Lenine would be the first to tell you that, we can't have a lot of years like this, but going forward, we're still in good shape. Anthony, do you have anything you want to add to that? And he may not he may not. Um, so if he jumps in later, we'll get to that. The other thing, Keith,
Hey,
that you
Steve, I just wanted to say, I'm really sorry. I'm juggling a couple things because I'm also at work. I would love to have a greater conversation later, but I can't really chip in right now.
Okay, all right, very good. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thanks for joining us. The other thing then, Keith, that you asked has to do with kind of the, how do I lead, and also how do we take care of each other? And I think this, as I have said for years, but one of the special things about Hillsboro is our hearts are bigger than our egos, and I think because of that, we are able to avoid some of the situations and issues that exist in other communities. When I see the compassion, the understanding present in so many different ways about how we're taking care of our neighbors, how we're trying to take care of those who are less fortunate, reaching out to elderly folks in our communities. When I see people doing so much more walking in neighborhoods, and I realize, that there are relationships that are being formed. I'm hopeful that those kinds of responses will carry over, beyond where we currently are. I almost always wear a mask when I'm out in public, and I've not been challenged on that. If I was, I'd just tell folks I'm doing it for the safety of my family and, frankly, the safety of others. And I appreciate those stores that are, as they open, are asking folks to wear masks. I appreciate those that are, taking the extra precautions, because I think that, when there's enough attention to those things, that gives those who are comfortable wearing masks and thinking about wearing masks, I think that also gives them the reason to do it as well. I've been asked to, kind of issue decrees, if you will, that say everybody has to wear a mask. And I've also been challenged, that masks and all of this is overblown and a hoax. And, and it's ridiculous to be told to wear a mask, and you should be a leader and, take a no mask policy. And certainly would never do the latter, but would highly, encourage everybody to wear masks and just take those safety precautions when they're out. I don't know if that really answers your question or not, but if it's totally up to me, Keith, to be able to provide, that kind of leadership, I don't believe that there's any one individual that can. It truly is all of us together supporting each other, as we've been doing and as we always have.
I have a question.
Yes.
Good morning, Mayor. I have a question around a buy local program.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we're buying things, we go to the online resources and we reach out far and wide. And I wondered if there was a way that we could encourage more people to buy local. And the thing that kind of catches me off guard once in a while is you'll think you're buying local, but you're buying from somebody stationed in Hillsboro, but they're actually manufacturing whatever product you're getting, maybe even in another state and often in another country. Is there a way that the city or somehow we could encourage people, or at least educate them on what manufacturing is available here and how to access that, especially if it's tax funds or city funds or county funds or state funds? I think it's just critical, especially during these times, to try and get everybody to know where the product they're buying is actually coming from.
Sure, absolutely. And and Les, I'll be glad to follow up with you and Deanna on that to see how we can do that, and to make sure at the same time, that a local retailer isn't, then losing business. Because, and how do I say this? If a local retailer is selling things, then they are a Hillsboro business too. And so I want to make sure that as we, support those things that are manufactured in Hillsboro, we also don't kind of cut the legs out from just, small retailers that may be selling things in Hillsboro that they are, bringing in from outside. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes,
Because
but it's
not every Hillsboro retailer is able to procure the items they sell solely from a local Hillsboro, creator and manufacturer.
I agree. And I know there's a lot of that, but to the extent that there are people that manufacture it here,
Yes,
there should be a way for them to be aware of that at least, and to encourage, because it's so important to keep those local
yes,
people working in that factory if there's any way to do that.
absolutely. So so now I have parks reopening and local manufacturing on my to-do list after this is done. Okay,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
Thank you.
We also have on our website a list that came from Business Oregon of local Oregon companies that are manufacturing PPE. So that, and we're adding to that all the time. And there are several that are Hillsboro-based companies. So if you're buying PPE, you can probably get a better deal. And you're certainly going to get it faster by buying from the folks on that list.
Right.
And I wanted to add to that I find that people want to make good decisions right now, but they're not sure what the right, they're looking for information. And if we provide information in a great way, the way the chamber has been providing such great information, people, and direct people to that source, they can get the information to make their own decisions. But many times people are looking for the information, and they just need the guidance, and then they can make their own decision. But yeah, so I agree that the information can be out there a little more visible in terms of local stuff.
Cindy, you made me think of something else, and Les, this is a good jump off from your question too. In phase one, personal services are allowed to begin to reopen, and obviously my hair is beginning to look like Bernie Sanders, and so I'm looking forward to getting a haircut. My wife is looking forward to me getting a haircut as well. But when we begin to do some of those things, if we have the means to do so, maybe we could also leave an extra generous tip, because they've lost a month or two, of income, and so if you can, almost, well, just leave an extra generous tip. That will help make up. That will help make up for their lost income, and certainly shows that loyalty is a two-way street. I think, so many of our small businesses have been there for our schools, for our fundraisers, for the athletics, for you name it. And so again, this is just such a powerful way for all of us to say thank you for being there for us in the past, and it's our time to be here for you.
So Mayor, I might suggest, it was something I was thinking about doing, but it actually comes better from a mayor, is to do a, sort of give them a break statement about our businesses that are reopening, and be a good consumer. And if the business says that they are requiring face masks to wear them, to follow their guidelines. If you see a company that maybe, or a business that isn't following the guidelines, to pull them aside and tell them, don't go running to OSHA and cause an additional problem for them. Everybody's trying to do the right thing. It's just, there's a lot of regulations, and sometimes things get missed. Sometimes when you're bringing employees back, that's hard too, as well. And then I think you can wrap into that, the buy local. Think about Hillsboro businesses that now need to make up for 3 months of revenue, and how can we as a community help them do that in a safe way?
Great, thank you.
Michelle Smith posted on Piccolo Mundo yesterday, or on the weekend, a fabulous, heartfelt post about what it's like to be a business reopening. And she reminded us just to be kind and patient with them. And I think that could be a message that we could all resonate with, is just to have a sense of empathy. And to, if you go to her message, you'll see that she struck a really beautiful tone. It sounded like she was in charge. She wasn't asking for pity, but she was saying, like, we just need to navigate through this together. And we will, because we're Hillsboro.
Good, thank you.
I got my
Dirk, you have
hand.
a question?
Yeah, Mayor, I got 3 or 4 things. I'm going to fire them off. You don't have to answer them in any great length. I'll just get them off the table. Newburgh and a couple of other towns are running these great programs where the city's giving a credit against your utility bill. I think it's 15% credit, and there's a discretionary part of the bill they're using to offset this. If you're a citizen and you spend money in the local businesses, you somehow are able to cash those receipts in. You probably saw this program. I'm sure Deanna has. I'd like you and Anthony and the guys to think about that. I know we're a city of great resources. If other towns are doing that, I think Newburgh went through $200,000 in actual dollar for dollar spending in their downtown in the first week and a half. And they're somehow using some of their, must be their water and sewer bill probably. So the citizens get an offset. I don't think it's dollar for dollar, but it's 15%. Anyway, I'd like you guys to think about that. That was my first question. You don't need to comment on that right now. And working with the people through Hillsboro Strong, I'm hearing comments about the Orenco farmers markets coming along. Can Hillsboro embrace, and this is up to your farmers market folks, to our farmers market folks, but can they come back downtown? This goes along with downtown having loss in businesses already. I can count 5, I think, that are closed or on their way out. And sadly, I'm hearing about another 4 or 5 just in private discussions. So getting farmers market since Tuesday night's gone back downtown. However, we can all, if that can or can't happen, there's some speculation the city's not ready for that. And maybe that has to do with our policies and COVID-19. And then that's my second question. And then finally, I've talked to you about this. The biggest single threat to losing another 2, 10, 20, 50 businesses locally seems to be lease pressures. That's their number one priority I'm hearing from people, is either they can't meet their lease commitment, have a landlord who's, and you got a whole mix. We got some wonderful landlords. We got others that want that dime on that day, or they're going to take those actions. There's a stay in place right now, but it's not going to, maybe it's over now, the stay in evictions. I'm particularly worried about lease landlords coming in so hard that we're going to lose more businesses, particularly in historic downtown. And it doesn't matter where we lose them, that's horrible. But you know, my history, I've seen downtown ghosted out and rebuilt 4 times now. This was the best single comeback I've seen downtown have. And boy, if we lose that now, I think we lose something so much greater than ourselves. So we talked about, can we target some funds from the county, from city coffers? Can the city have any borrowing capacity? So forgetting about grants for a minute, because grants are fantastic. We just don't have enough money to grant. Thinking about small business loans that the city either backs or sponsors, solely targeted at rent. That leaves the business owner. They still have to figure out payroll, but a lot of them can soldier on just with themselves and or family and or close staff and run on fumes through the rest of this. But that lease will never, if it's not in forbearance, and I'm helping 2 people right now try to talk to these landlords. So that's something I'm offering as a realtor, and I've had a lot of experience. But this is market driven stuff, but it just seems to me, if we can find a way to say to those folks, you can borrow a little bit from us and the city can back you. And granted, they may go under and the city may eat some of that, but it may be the one thing that keeps us from losing at least 5 to 10 more folks that I'm hearing from in the greater downtown core. And that's a big concern to me, because once we lose them, I think we've got 6 vacancies now and a whole building vacant at the 1890s building other than the main floor. And we haven't had that in years. So it just so happens we need to stop that, or we need to try to stop this slide if we can, even if it's only for a few months, because that to me will make the whole difference going forward. So those were 3 specific questions: utility program, farmers market, and how do we help can we find a way to target and help those folks? And I'm particularly worried about the salons and the gyms and the people who aren't going to get to come back in tier 1. It seems disproportionately unfair to those folks that, you know, the governor's order and COVID-19 kind of took them completely out of the game. So those are my 3 things I had on my list to talk to you about today.
So Dirk, what did you say? Who wasn't involved? I just wanted clarity on who you said was not part of phase 1, because I think you said some folks that are actually, and I just want to make sure we're all clear about that.
So the salons come back and the gyms come back, and you know, the restaurants and all that are coming back, right? I'm not
Right.
clear on whether they can only have one person in a salon, like how many people can you actually have in a gym? And it just seems to me, I went to Kohl's, right? They're open. Dick's Sporting Goods open. Joanne Fabric had 100 people in there. Some people have that advantage in tier 1 to be fully open.
Right.
I'm not hearing that salons are going to be able to open in tier 1 in that fashion, nor gyms.
No, they're going to be there certainly will be regulations. I'm sorry, Mayor, I interrupted you.
So that's all I'm pointing out is, and those are people I think who are really at a disadvantage in tier 1 anyway. But I have a greater concern that everybody's struggling, right?
You know, and thanks, Dirk, because I think we all share, the concerns, because we know our small business owners have just literally poured their heart and soul and all their resources. And that's just to get going. And some of those that are just hanging on, it is frustrating knowing that some landlords are able to work with their tenants more flexibly, than others. What is the city's role in that? That's kind of a philosophical thing, depending on who you talk to. I know our city is concerned. A vibrant downtown has always been a priority, for our councils going back, any number of years. And it certainly was for Mayor Willie and Mayor Hughes and, and before. I don't know that I don't know what is within the purview legally of the city, to do with that. Having the notion of county or city backing for some of these payments, I wouldn't speak for the county and how they're going to use their federal dollars. The question of how can we use our city budget, because we don't have federal dollars. I just don't know. But what I can do is promise that I'll take this, back, to Civic Center and begin some, discussions about that. With the Orenco Saturday farmers markets, those are separate from the city. And so it's kind of, their decision on when they open and where and how they open. We saw, unfortunately, Tuesday market won't be here, this summer. And I understand that. I'm really disappointed because I love that part, about Tuesday nights during the summer. And I know it's going to have an impact on, those small, vendors and farmers. And we just lose that sense of community every Tuesday night with music and food. I don't know when I don't know where the farmer's market is, Dirk, in terms of moving out of the county parking lot and onto Main Street. There may be conversations, that are taking place with city staff about that. And I'll be glad to find out. And in terms of Newburgh, I'm unfamiliar with, whether or not Newburgh has their own, clean water services, if they do that themselves. So do they do all of the, the providing of water and the cleaning up of water? Obviously, when you look at your utility bill, we know that clean water services is more than half of our utility bill. And so even if we gave some credit, for the water component of it, we still are, we're still kind of, bound at the hip of clean water services in terms of collections and that sort of thing. So I would see that it would have to be something that we would do with the county, and not just, and not just with our own water department, trying to absorb all of that credit and cost ourselves. So
I'll send you a copy of the article.
Okay, thank you.
North Plains also had a similar type of program as well.
Right.
Yep, they did.
But I think they were also, they didn't do the grant program, right? As far as because they didn't have the capacity to do that. So I understand, that it's what's going to benefit the most, right? What's going to help the fastest. We're in the midst of doing another survey for our members before they open, or for the business community, to see if there are some specific things that they need assistance with in order to make reopening a possibility for them.
Good. You know, Indiana, the comment you made, well, just reference the business grants, and, you know, Dirk, this also may tie in, but we have applied for, as a city, $350,000 of the $2.5 million made available by Business Oregon for the small business grant and loan program. So that may be, you know, so that, and I don't know all the restrictions that go with that, but if that 350,000 comes through, you know, for us, then that may be able to provide some of the, at least a few small businesses, some relief for lease payments.
Okay, that would be good. Thank you.
I'd just like to say something too, Steve.
Thank you, Brad.
If you do go to the county with some, or the city council with some sort of rent relief, just keep in mind that a lot of landlords are small businesses too. So
That's right. And there's the perception that every landlord, you know, is just sitting on a pile of cash, and that isn't true, because they still have the mortgages that they have to pay, whether it's on the duplex or the commercial building. And so, you know, we can push things, you know, up and up and up, but eventually you hit a ceiling. And so, you know, I know that many of our landlords and business or building owners, they want to see, you know, their business or their buildings full. So they're not in a hurry to kick anybody out, because an empty building, you know, especially, Dirk, when we think of some that have been empty for a couple of years, you know, what's the point of kicking somebody out and then have it sit empty for a couple of years? So, you know, but there is that balance, you know, between the business owner and recognizing that the building owner, the landlord, has obligations as well. So,
Yeah,
Brad,
I mean, what we need is a federal program. They encouraged and/or came close to forcing banks to forbear mortgage payments. Almost every mortgage company now will give you forbearance and extend your 30-year mortgage or your 15-year mortgage and let you have a few months off. And they didn't do that for commercial. I think that's a very good federal program to continue to support, just because presuming everybody gets a timeout on those payments, if you're a building owner and you got a commercial loan, you can go to that bank and say, can I get 6 months tacked on, or take my interest and forecast it, re-amortize it, with the quid pro quo being they pass it down to the tenants. Most of them would do that. It's just not mandated. But I have heard talk that as this financial wave that is expected to hit this fall that hasn't hit yet comes, we may see that, and it very well may be the salvation for a lot of our small businesses. So I'm hoping Janine at the state, who's with us, who's a fantastic policy supporter, and then our national folks can continue to have that conversation, because it would help. And I realize it's not the city's job to do that. I mean, free markets drive themselves the way they do. I just, we're a very creative city. We got fantastic people, to your point earlier, and the Hillsboro way as we figure things out. So if we can,
Dirk, and I'm going to jump in here too. A couple of other things, you know, as we talked about, some businesses, also the Venetian, you know, has been purchased, and that's going to be opening up, you know, in the next couple of months. The website for that is Venetian Hillsboro. I think it's .com. So VenetianHillsboro.com, and you can, you know, get an update. You can sign up for, you know, you can sign up for emails. It'll keep you updated on the progress, and on there is information about what it will, you know, what the goal is for John as he reopens that. The other one is we have a new business in downtown Hillsboro, Arcade 2084, and I would love just to throw it open to you for a moment if you'd like to tell us about, you know, the arcade that's going to be opening up when life returns to a little bit more of a normal feel. So if you want to, so thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. So yes, we are a video game arcade. It's going to be a classic retro 80s games, 80s music experience. If you frequented arcades in the past when they were, you know, really big in their heyday, this will be reminiscent of that. You know, there's no redemption games or anything like that. We're running on tokens, and all games are just a single token. one of our goals was to give the community a place to go for all ages. And we have, I think, successfully done that negotiating with the OLCC. So we're going to provide food and drinks, including beer, wine, and cocktails, but minors will still be allowed until we close. So the whole family can come and have a good time from open to close. And we were shooting for June 1st to open. I don't think we're going to make that, but definitely June. We're on Instagram and Twitter, and we'll be posting there when we have a better idea of the date that we're going to open. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy to field any questions anybody has.
Good. So knowing it's kind of retro to the 80s, you know, and the big hair era, for those of us who don't have any hair, I hope that there will still be a place for us as well.
Of course, everybody is welcome.
Good, good. But congratulations. And, you know, there's enough challenges opening a small business, you know, in the best of circumstances. And so thank you for, you know, just following through with your dreams in these challenging circumstances. And for those of you who don't know where it's located, it's the old Primrose and Tumbleweeds venue. So right across the street from the Venetian. And so it will be fun to have both establishments open to the public here soon. So thank you.
Can you tell us your names? Can I get the names of you guys that own it? We've met, but I wanted to get them down properly.
Oh, sure. So I am Shanna Nelson. And
Okay.
my partner is Eric Milovets.
How do you spell that?
Milavetz.
I have the card here somewhere, but it helps. Are you Shanna with one N?
Yes.
So just if I could interject, I would like to ask a question of Representative Solomon while she's on the call with us. So I'm curious about, I know that the Emergency Board has met and allocated, I think it was $50 million, and I think 10 million of it went to small businesses, grants, and those types of help, financial help. But I think that where the real money comes in is during special session. Do you have any sort of estimate of when you might be called back into special session and what that might look like for small businesses?
Thank you, Deanna, for that question. I feel awkward not being on camera, so I'm just going to show you this. And it's not that I am in my pajamas or anything. It's the fact that my left side of my face ran into a board that was in the back side of my husband's truck this weekend.
Oh, no.
I look like I am battling COVID hard here, and I'm going to win, by golly. I just wanted to share with you that you are right, that we have limitations to how much support that we can give our small businesses due to the fact that we have not come into a special session. We were able to allocate through our e-board $10 million through Business Oregon, which the Oregon for, let's see what that's, Oregon for Biz, the number 4biz.com is a great resource for folks to go to follow those dollars that have been allocated through e-board. I want to say that I've heard rumors from folks that have told me when they think the special session is. I have not been given a date yet. We were waiting for that economic, the forecast, and that has been released, sadly. And now I think that we're having our committee hearings this week and next week, and then the senators will meet next week. And then hopefully, I know that I've spoken to a lot of my colleagues that are ready to come into a special session. We need to have the governor be able to call us into that. I think there was worry and wanting to make sure that all those ducks were in a row about where we were getting with federal dollars, what we were going to see for economic forecast, revenue forecast, and then here we are. So I think the wheels are turning. We are hopeful that it will be in a June time period. Again, I have not received a date, but I do know this is a great concern because I don't care if you're talking about Burns to Beaverton on the small business side of things. that's who's doing the work on our main streets, and those are what's getting people back to work. That's what's getting our economy going. So the importance of supporting our small businesses is critical. I want to tell you, shout out to Deanna. I really think the resources that come from the Hillsboro Chamber are amazing. I share a lot of those in my newsletter. So thank you to all of that. And also want to say I have two staff members, Nicole Vargas and Mark Watson. They are going to, Mark is going to work on a project reaching out to a lot of small businesses in our House District 30 to see how we can connect them with resources to find out what their challenges are, what are their successes. We usually try to do this in a small business roundtable type thing, but really trying to make our effort to reach out as much as we can to prepare and get as much information possible so that when we come into special session, we know exactly what our small businesses in Hillsboro are needing, so I can be a better informed legislator. So thank you.
Janine, I would be happy to partner with your staff on this survey that we're preparing, if that would be helpful.
That'd be fantastic.
Excellent.
Yeah. Cindy, go ahead.
I forgot to put my hand up. So I was listening and I was thinking that the spirit of going forward, I was just thinking we want to have a movement called Rebuilding Together. And which is sort of gets the spirit of we've moved out of that previous phase and now we're rebuilding very consciously. We are now shifting in a new thing. And it just like the last thing, we have to do this together because it's not going to be, we can't do it on our own. And I also want to commend I go to the chamber. I think the chamber has been incredible, just like the city of Hillsboro, but during this time, trying to take all this information and weed out all the stuff and to put it there. I really want to commend Deanna and the chamber for that. That's been huge during this time. One of the things that sort of tags on to what Janine just said is I think that hearing people's stories helps people, like humanizes the issue. It's one thing for the mandate to come down about what we should and shouldn't do, but when we continue to hear each other's stories. So I was thinking earlier on the call that one thing we could do is we could, and I could lead this. I just can't do it right now because my husband's about to have knee surgery, but I will do this, which is to talk to individual businesses or nonprofits and say, and get the three questions would be, what happened to you during COVID? What are you doing now? And what can the community do to support you? So those three questions, and have that story be told that comes out of like a grassroots community effort to get those stories out. Because it's one thing to tell people we should or shouldn't wear masks or we shouldn't do this. But when you hear someone's story, you just automatically, I got to do something. You know, it's the stories. You realize it's these poor people they're really good people trying to do the right thing in an extraordinarily bad situation. So those are my thoughts.
Steve, if I could just interject, I just want to thank the folks that have been complimentary of the chamber, and just say that it's really a fabulous team. Jen Little, who's my communications brand manager, has been doing great. And one thing to look forward to, sometime this week, we're going to have a Spanish version mirrored of our website, our COVID-19 website. It's been really difficult to do. A lot of the agencies that are putting out information in Spanish are doing it via Google Translate, and it doesn't translate. And so we're having to have some professional translation done to ensure that the regulations are very, very clear and understandable for what our Latinx businesses need to do to reopen. Steve, it's back to you.
I'm aware that there's only a few minutes. Left. Okay, thank you. I think my internet is a bit unstable, so I apologize.
As long as
Can you
you're
hear me
not,
still?
we're fine.
Okay, so I'll just keep going. I do want to say thank you countywide, for the passage of the library levy as well as the public safety levy. Those two things are critically important as we move forward. And as the county seat, you know, the public safety levy is critically important because of our role, you know, where people are incarcerated, where people are adjudicated. And then with the county, you know, because we're part of a county library system, you know, our library will open at about the same, well, at the same time that the countywide libraries do, because otherwise you can imagine as everybody turns back in, weeks and weeks worth of books all at once. If we don't have the ability to, you know, send them back to their originating library and everything, is just going to be a nightmare. So our libraries will coordinate with the county-wide system. I want to compliment the county on, you know, getting their plan in last week. I know that it was, you know, faster than originally planned. And so I'm grateful to them, you know, for that. And also, you know, you know, Hillsboro does not have primaries. And so our election is November. And so we have one, you know, Councilor Anthony Martin, who will be up for re-election, as will Councilor Rick Van Beveren. And then Fred Noctegal, who has served for the last 8 years, is term limited out. So that's going to be an open seat, and that's going to be very important, how that's filled and especially who fills it. And then obviously, you know, my 4 years are coming up, and I'll be running for re-election, and I appreciate from so many of you in the chamber pack. And so there'll be more conversations about that, you know, obviously in the future. So I'm hopeful that you all heard that, even if the video wasn't strong.
So, Mayor, is there a way where folks, if they're interested in helping support your campaign, how they would do that?
Let's see, CallawayForMayor.com is the easiest way to do it. And you can also, there's the you know, Steve Callaway Facebook page, and we will respond to any sort of messages that we receive there as well.
And are you having signs?
Oh yes, in fact, here.
Is it?
There you go.
Excellent.
They look a lot like 4 years ago, just with a little addition. And again, you know, we buy local, we stick local. These were from the sign company, so we're glad to give them support. We'll be working with Les to get our walking pieces, you know, because again, if we're gonna campaign local, we're proud to source that locally as well.
Excellent. Steve, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you all for joining us. Tomorrow we have K.L. Wambacher, who is the President and General Manager of the Hillsboro Hops, providing an update. So I hope all the fans will join him and give him support and just hear what the rest of the season looks like for him, and where the Hops are going and how it impacts the team, and just give him the community support. Really, truly appreciate it. And thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Deanna.